Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm back with another episode of Hassan Akram podcast. Today, my guest is a very versatile person, Rusana. She is a neurocoding specialist and a relationship master coach. She has been helping a lot of people. And before this podcast, we've been talking about spiritual journey and all that. And she shared some great perspective. Thank you so much, Dr. Sana, for taking out some time on Saturday and being a part of my show. How are you?
I am very well, Hassan. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for having me here. I'm very excited for this podcast.
Same here. I'm also excited about the podcast. So tell my audience more about who Dr. Sana is.
Okay, so if you ask me, you've already given the titles that I use, so I'd like for you, your audience to hear who I am as a person. Okay, so I am an extroverted person. I love sharing knowledge, and I have certain moods like where I want to be out there doing something that would benefit another soul. Okay, so there's a little bit of spirituality there as well. Then the kind of knowledge I acquire, I believe that Allah has given it to me so that I can share it with others. And knowledge alone is not power, so I believe in action, right? So when I talk about knowledge, I don't just talk about acquiring knowledge, getting insights in. I talk about very practical things in all the work that I do as a neuro encoding specialist and as a relationship coach as well. So just to tell your audience what neuro encoding is. Neuro encoding has two bits to it. It's a method, it's a process. Neuro has to do with your nerves and your brain, how they function. And encoding, I think जो आपके computer engineers होंगे in your audience, they would understand what encoding means, right? So
I am a computer
encoding
engineer.
so encoding is just to decode something or put the right code in it to use. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you put these two words together, my mentor, Joseph McClendon, he says that this is the best way to train your brain to get the best output. Okay. Best output in what? Your behavior, how you manage things, everyday things. Like, it's not a disease when you procrastinate. It's not a disease when you have fear of failure. It's not a disease when you have imposter syndrome. These are everyday experiences one person feels. Who do you go to for this? You come to a neuroencoding specialist, and we help you train your brain to get the results you want.
Is it a branch of NLP?
NLP is another process, neuro
Okay.
linguistic programming. It's
Yeah.
similar to, it's a neuroencoding is a process, NLP is a process, different CBT, DBT, these are
Yeah.
processes. So the person who's using this can be a coach like myself, can be a psychologist, can be a therapist, psychiatrist. The person can be anybody. Okay. They just need to be licensed to practice this.
I see. Okay. Great. Great. Okay. Tell us about your journey from medical executive background into a coaching and neuroencoding. What was the spark?
I love talking about this. See, I'm a very typical Desi Pakistani girl. I call myself a girl. So, so like anyone else, I wanted to come into the medicine field. I wanted to be a doctor, um, to help others. Yeah. And there's a backstory to it too. I have a lot of role models in the family too, very educated family background. Okay. So yeah, medicine is a heen bachi goes into medicine and does the MBBS 5 years and then comes out thinking, oh, now what to do? Had a very, very small exposure to public health. And I was more interested in dealing directly with the patients. But then, that's what we do. We don't look at people as clients. We look at patients. Okay. So we impose sometimes the disease on them, the illness on them. Oh, you have this. Is their behavior matching or not? And there's certain things that I don't agree with the way medicine is practiced in Pakistan. But I love the overall, the context of helping others. Yes. And then with all this aspiration and everything, I fell in love. And because I fell in love, I had to move from Rawalpindi to Karachi. And then I've been in Karachi for
You're
the
from
last 19 years. Yeah, my family lives. My parents are in Rawalpindi, and I've studied from Bakai Medical University, Karachi, and then I went back to Pindi, did my house job there. Took some 3 years of clinical experience also. When I was doing it, Manchwala earthquake aaya tha. So I have also
Yeah.
worked with UN organizations like International Organization for Migration, and I've helped the displaced people as well. So I have some experience on that side too. I don't talk much about it because, it's not like I've left that, but it has added to my skill set. Okay. So when I got married, came to Karachi and worked in public health for a little bit, but then had my baby boy, and I chose to halt my career. Not everyone chooses. Sometimes, it's the obligations and you feel like pressured into stopping your career. So my career was at halt, and for a long time I didn't know when it's going to restart. And during that, I noticed my behavior had changed. I was not that very positive person that I used to be. I've been a very popular kid all my school years, but after marriage, the responsibilities of a desi household in a joint system, like a family of 13, life really started happening for me. And when it was happening for me, there were many things that I had to learn, many roles that I had to juggle, and it gave me a lot of pressure. I had planned my babies; both my babies are planned, Alhamdulillah. Lamia ne, he made it easy for me. But I had 2 C-sections, and the willingness to be the super mom, trying to prove to the world I'm that very strong woman, really, really made it worse for me. So that mindset did not help. I started having fights with my husband, and those fights were on very petty things, and I felt bad afterwards. But I've no shame in declaring कि हाँ भी मैंने ये गलतियां की हैं. I've made these mistakes because I chose to learn from them. Ki karni, I got in touch with Arslan Larik, and Co. And they offered me a course in NLP 7 years back. That happened, and that was a turning point for me. Around 9 years back, I got into, because of my son's questioning, I got into this very different niche on the medical side that no one really talks about. And when they do talk about, they don't have the credibility to talk about it. I'm talking about transgender healthcare in Pakistan. Okay. So, in your introduction, when you said I'm a neuroencoding specialist and a relationship coach, I also want your audience to know that I do something very different, very unsaturated field. Nobody's really coming into this field because it doesn't exist as a field in Pakistan yet. Although inclusive healthcare is a basic human right. And, no matter who you are, Hassan, whether you're into, I know that you're into physical health and all. So whoever you are, the way your body functions, your healthcare provider needs to know all about it. Nobody really knows. So transgender healthcare and intersex healthcare is something that I offer. I do. I am also the elected vice president for Pakistan Medical Association Karachi, and that adds to my responsibilities. So I juggle multiple things. And like you said, 9 saal pehle, 6 years back, these turning points, they came into my life and really made it worthwhile for me. I feel very aligned with my purpose in life, and I help others achieve it.
Amazing. And the work which you do for transgender, I think this is something which is really amazing. At least someone is thinking about them as well. And do you do that pro bono, or is it a paid work?
So the medical consultations are subsidized. Okay. But there is a price tag to it, because you see, हम as a coach ये बोलते हैं कि अगर आप फ्री में कुछ देंगे ना तो उसको लोग वैल्यू नहीं करते. People will not value or put in the required effort if they've not paid for something. 100%. It's a globally known phenomena. Like when you pay for something, and if we are talking to Pakistanis here, you will know that they cry even for 500 rupees. They'll be like, हाँ हमने पैसे दिए, हमने pay किया. So concept होता है ना? Yes, they do pay, but my consultation is not those exuberant amounts, because the intention is to help. Intention is to not just help medically but teach also. Like I have to teach them at times, like how your body's functioning, what can we do. I have to remove all the medical jargon. I have to come to where they are and then explain things. And this explanation is now also happening for healthcare providers, because I'm being approached by doctors and I'm being approached by nurses, different tiers of healthcare providers who now want to learn this, because they also feel very bad. They can empathize, कि क्यों नहीं हमें पढ़ाया जा रहा, क्यों curriculum में नहीं है. Since 2018, the law is in place. Most people who have not read the Trans Person Protection Act don't know what the law is about, and they assume very bad things about it. Okay, the law is very basic, except for the law for family. The Trans Person Protection Act just gives basic human rights. Basic human rights. 12th clause is about healthcare. It says, it pushes you to actually inculcate this in the curriculum. Like, inclusion needs to be there so that MBBS doctors, they can learn about it, the basics, what terms to use, how not to misgender someone, what is the appropriate way to deal with a person who is gender variant, what are some tests to be done, how will the lab work help you as a doctor and them as a patient or a client. They're not diseased. Most people think Damagi masla hai. They're not diseased. It's just how Allah creates variety in humans. When Allah can create variety in anything, why not humans? 8 billion of us, not a single clone. So there's so much that we can talk about when it's
Okay.
about transgender healthcare.
Yeah, got it. Okay, I see that you have been working with a lot of female executives on self-doubt and anxiety. What's one common myth people have about that?
If I say myth, it's not one. It's not, and everything is very common. They will come with self doubt. They will doubt themselves. Self doubt corrodes confidence. When you are a senior executive at a higher position, what do you need the most? You need the confidence, because you might have a lot of knowledge to back you up. But if you don't have the confidence to convey it, you cannot handle a board meeting, right? Imagine senior executives have, other female executives have other men executives around them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't, when you are at a senior position like that, you can't just sit there, smile and look pretty. Or, you have a certain credibility, you have done some work, you have put in a lot of efforts, you have done so many leadership, courses to support your growth. But then comes self-doubt and comes overwhelm. You are unable to ask for help. Okay, most common. You are unable to ask for help, because if you ask for help, what will it show? It will show a weakness. Can you show weakness? Somehow, in the leadership skills, vulnerability is not taught properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How can you become a leader if you don't tell your subordinates how to be vulnerable? It's, again, female executives get apprehensive if they are not allowed to voice themselves. Allowance क्यों मांग रहे अभी तक? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you have something good to say, if you have something progressive to say, if you are being proactive about it, that's the best thing on the table. Bring it to the table, correct? But what will stop them?
You tell me.
Self-doubt is the first thing. Self-doubt kills more dreams than anything else ever will. Very common saying. Yeah. So for the executives, I usually don't offer just one-off anxiety programs or self-doubt programs. I have a complete package. It's a signature program. It's called Ascend, because you're at a level where you may not have a step ladder, a big step ladder in front of you. Even one step above, even one grade above, even one position above will require a lot from you, will demand a lot from you. Appraisals बैठे हो ना तो आपको अंदाजा होता है what all they look at. And you need to have grit, you need to have emotional intelligence.
Yep.
I have come across a lot of men who think that women are very emotional, because their own concept of emotional intelligence is resilience, not emotional intelligence. They think that if I can be strong, if I don't break, if I don't show my weakness, that's what strong people do. That's what this emotional intelligence is all about. Like, I can manage my emotions, I can control them. No, that's not emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Right?
Just
So a
suppressing
lot
them,
of a lot of executives need to learn more about emotional intelligence the right way,
I
from the right
100%
coach.
agree with you. Yeah. And I think there are two things which leaders should have. It's not a choice. You don't have, you should learn executive presence and emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
These are the two things I think which can make you a good leader. But sadly, I think Pakistan का मसला ये है कि जिस तरह I'm leading a team in my company and I won't be very vulnerable. I sometimes I ask them during our one-on-ones, tell me which part of my leadership you think I should improve, and I tell them, don't think I am a manager. Think I'm your brother. Think someone who is your big brother. Just share that knowledge. And you're not being judged here. Let me tell you, you're not being judged here. And the feedback I got from my peers was amazing. They were very open about what they have to say. And I was able to learn a lot of stuff, which as a leader, I was not looking
Yeah.
into. So third
So
person perspective is always good.
yeah, and if you're into reading books, Hassan, there's one book that I'm going through these days. It's by Gary Vee. 12 and a half. It's called 12 and a half by Gary Vee. Now, Gary Vee, being a businessman, he's written a very, it's a very tiny book, very small book. But those 12 and a half ingredients, if you look at those in a personality, it's like he's talking about these ingredients should be in you to have a successful business, have a successful business model. And in those 12 and a half ingredients, empathy, kind candor, appreciation, there are many things that he talks about. All of them bring me back to what Islam teaches us.
Yeah.
It's so funny. These leadership programs they all revolve around how to get those things that already Islam preaches and teaches us. Every time I read a foreigner's, unconsciously, I'm looking for, ये तो मुझे पता है, ये तो इस्लाम में है. ये तो हम practice करते हैं, अल्लाह का शुक्र हम मुसलमान पैदा हुए.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's such a
absolutely.
blessing.
It is. Okay, good. I like this conversation where it's heading towards. Okay, many people think coaching is same as therapy. What's the real difference, and why might someone choose one over the other?
Okay, excellent question. I think your audience will benefit a lot from this question. The answer is very simple. There are proper differences where you talk about coaching and therapy. Number one, therapist, a licensed therapist, a trained therapist can provide therapy. Therapy is also sometimes provided by trained psychiatrists. Otherwise, a psychiatrist is supposed to just prescribe.
Okay.
Therapists don't prescribe medicine, okay, unless they have a medical degree with them. All right. Now, coaching is neither provided by a therapist alone or a psychiatrist alone. In order to be a coach, you need to be trained as a coach, trained by a trainer of coaches who knows how to train. And this also needs to be licensed. For example, Joseph McClendon III, famous in US, I am licensed by Joseph to practice neuroencoding. When something is not licensed or when you are not certified in something, that means that you shouldn't be practicing it. Quackery ho jati hai. Okay? What coaching does is it offers you structured programs for anything that becomes a problem, an everyday life issue. It is not about illnesses. It is not about disease. A doctor is not doing it. So when I'm being a coach, I am not being a doctor. I'm not prescribing. I am actually teaching people simpler methods to train their brain and train their body to get the results they want. For example, if it's an anxiety program, my anxiety program is a structured program of 4 sessions plus 1 bonus session for integration. In those 4 sessions, I not only teach about the science behind anxiety, what it truly means, how the person experiences it. Now, different people experience anxiety in different ways. I also figure out, because I'm a doctor, a registered medical practitioner, I also figure out whether this is familial. Is anxiety running in the family or not? Not every coach will be able to do that. Okay. So I have an edge there. Being a doctor always gives me an edge because I can then differentiate. I would still not, opt to prescribe if somebody can learn methods without medicine, without popping the pill. If I can teach you how to manage your anxiety, that's amazing, because you need to learn breath work. You need to ground yourself. You need to really understand what helps you not get into a panic attack. Okay. So it takes me 3 to 4 sessions to bring the person to a place, a headspace where they don't need me. I can move on to another client. They are empowered enough that they will be able to manage that. The integration session is a bonus session where I look into other aspects of their life. If they are willing to work on something else, we move on to something else.
Right.
So coaching will be a structured program. Therapy, however, was designed long back. About Freud, about other very senior deceased psychotherapists. They designed therapy in a way where they take 100 sessions just to come to a diagnosis, and they take another 100 sessions or so. Like, it's long term. It's very long term. So if you have the time, if you have the patience to get the results, then, or if you want to dig deeper. Digging deeper means if you really want to get to the root of what made me do this, what about my childhood traumas, what about this and that. So if you can commit that much time, therapy will do wonders for you. Because I was not in a place like that and I wanted faster results. My circumstances were different. I opted for coaching. When I went for therapy, it didn't work for me. I don't discourage other people, but I talk about what worked for me more.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. I think that was a great answer to have a difference between these two things. What are the biggest blockers for people who want to change but somehow feel stuck?
Anyone who is feeling stuck is not able to create choices for themselves. I'll say that again. Notice karna, kabhi bhi, jab bhi stuck की feeling आए ना मैं फंस गया, that means your brain is not in a headspace where you can create choices. You always have a choice. You always have a choice. Even when you're making a compromise, you have a choice. Are you going to choose something that was offered to you? For example, who is making the choices for you? Kids, जब बच्चे होते हैं हम, our parents make certain choices for us. We are given, you know that एक phenomenon होता है ना जिसको हम क्या बोलते हैं, डबल बाइंडिंग. इन डबल बाइंडिंग व्हाट यू डू इज, जैसे मैं अपने बच्चों को बोलती हूँ ना कि जी वी आर डिसाइडिंग अ कर्फ्यू फॉर यू, what time should be the curfew for my 17-year-old and for my 13-year-old. So now instead of saying them इतने बजे का कर्फ्यू होना चाहिए तुम्हारा कि भाई तुम इतने बजे घर पे हो, वापस कहीं भी जाओ. So this is open question. They can say 1 o'clock ma, 2 o'clock ma in the night. Okay. So instead of doing that, I double bind them and I give them the choice I want them to make. Okay. So I'd say, okay, so whose curfew should be 10 p.m. and whose curfew should be 11 p.m. It is a choice.
Yeah.
But what did I do? I became a coach and I double bound them. There are, this happens in negotiations too. When you're talking about executive professionals who are dealing with, high financial negotiations, then they need to come up with such, they're trained, or if they're not trained, they need the skill set where they can double bind with, they know what they want. And so it's not a bad compromise for them. It's always a win-win for them. So, people can learn how to create win-wins.
Right. Okay. Amazing. What's an NLP tool or trick you wish everyone knew?
It's not just one thing, Hassan. And NLP is not the only thing.
Okay.
As a neuroencoding specialist, I say once you start on this track, once you start acquiring this type of knowledge that makes you more progressive, more of an achiever, more liberated in your mind, more flexible mindset. The most flexible person in the room always wins the argument. When you see this, when you चखना होता है ना, taste this empowerment, then it's a chaska and you want more of it. Okay, so then you start looking at investing in your personal development every few months, every few years. So I did NLP with Arslan Larik and Co, and then I moved on and I wanted more and I wanted to improve. I wanted to build on my skill set, because the more I build on my skill set, the more I'm able to help others.
Absolutely.
Okay, so my alignment with my purpose enhances when I build on my skill set. So neuroencoding from a foreigner obviously was a huge investment, and then learning to reach more people with the help of another marketing coach, Arjuman. She's in Dubai. Another investment in personal development, personal grooming. Something that I want people to actually learn is not NLP. It is investment in your personal development.
Okay.
This investment is not like AI ka course kar liya, graphic design ka course kar liya. No, I'm talking about becoming who you are, becoming who you are destined to be.
And how would you understand who you are and what your destiny is?
So everyone, if Allah has given you life, that means you have a purpose for this life, because this life is very short life. We have to aim for the afterlife as well. So for the time that you're here, figuring out your purpose, figuring out why you were given this life is most important. Simon Sinek wrote a book on finding your why. It has helped many. Simon Sinek's book, Finding Your Why, Find Your Why. So that is something that I say to youngsters. See, हम उस मुल्क में हैं जहाँ student counselor अच्छे नहीं होते, career counseling सही नहीं होती. अम्मा अब्बा पहले से predict करते हैं, वो तुम engineer बनना, वो तुम doctor बनना, ठीक है? So I think it's high time. This is an information age. We have high tech. Technology has advanced so much. So I think it's time that we start looking into getting better student counselors at the right time. 11th grade, 12th grade is amazing time to explore, what is the potential in the kid, instead of imposing things on them. What are their true strengths? Listen, do you know MBTI personality tests?
Yeah.
वो fixate, आप उसमें fixate नहीं हो जाते, ठीक है? But जब आप मेरी age को when you have certain experience, when you have certain experiences and stories to tell, that's when you have a more steady or plateaued personality. 10 साल पहले मैं ऐसे नहीं थी. I had not worked on myself. I'm a work in progress. So I want people to know that it's okay to get help. When you're in 10th grade, it's okay to get help. When you're in 12th grade, it's okay to get help. Even when you are a coach who's helping others, a coach needs a coach. Everybody needs a coach, I think. Okay,
At the end of
because
the day,
you
we
may
all are
need,
learning. Yeah.
है ना? We are I say this for myself, and since you are also helping others, I'd say this for you as well. We are forever learners.
Yeah,
है ना?
absolutely. And I think I also believe that the problem with people is that if they have a certain knowledge, they tend to keep them to themselves, right? My belief is बर्तन खाली करोगे तो नया उसमें कुछ
And
give.
And another thing is, it's a disservice. I heard another mentor say this, Dean Graziosi. He's friends with Tony Robbins. And he said that if you know something and you know how to do it better than others and you're not teaching it to others, it's a disservice. कब्र में लिख
Yeah,
है ना?
ऐसे ही है.
और
True.
सिखाने वाला, Rumi says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Wow, I love this.
है ना? So I want us to be ready to learn something new. Learning is the most difficult thing, though. So
Spot on.
ready to unlearn as well.
Yes.
Ready to unlearn as well. And anything and everything that's not working for you.
Correct.
रिफ्लेक्शन बहुत जरूरी है. अक्सर
बहुत
मुझसे
जरूरी
पूछते हैं लोग, एक छोटी सी एग्जांपल,
Sure, why not?
क्योंकि मैं रिलेशनशिप कोचिंग ज्यादा करते हैं, खवातीन पूछती हैं, हमारे मियाँ बड़े अच्छे हैं, बड़ा ख्याल करते हैं, बहुत प्रोवाइड करते हैं, तेज, उनके गुस्से सबके सामने बेइज्जती करते, गुस्से के तेज है, वैसे बहुत अच्छे हैं. अब मुझे बताओ हसन, इफ समबडी इज स्ट्रगलिंग, यू एंड दे नो वो गुस्से वाला, right? They know उनका गुस्सा नहीं काबू है, intensity high. As a coach, I say anger is valid. Anger is a valid emotion. It's the range of emotion you can experience. Yes. Then what is not right? What is a bad behavior? Bad behavior is not being angry. Bad behavior is aggression. गुस्से का गैर जरूरी इस्तेमाल. Because when you are angry, you are hurting your own body. Your own body chemistry is changing. Your posture is aggressive. You are in fight mode. Your cortisol is released. You're stressed, right? In that state, you are not benefiting yourself. And whoever is in front of you at the receiving end, they are also not benefiting. So in the moment where you can, अगर एक दफा आपका ब्रेन हाईजैक हो गया ना, एमिगडाला हाईजैक हो गया एक दफा और आपको गुस्सा, तो देन इट विल टेक अ फ्यू मिनट्स फॉर यू टू काम डाउन. उस वक्त किसी के मुंह लगना बेकार है, समझा सकता कोई, once it's hijacked. But you can train your brain. See, my anger management program is about training your brain to learn your own triggers and then work on the threshold, bring it down to the intensity where it does not hurt you or hurt the other person. So anger becomes a valid emotion, but aggression you are able to manage. जिस शख्स को ये पता है कि उसको गुस्सा आता है, they must invest in their anger management. They must, because what are they losing? They're losing every opportunity to have a better interaction. Every opportunity. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah, you see the results physically in your body too, which is also not good. So absolutely.
But how frequently do our men take time out to go to the gym, especially to get rid of anger? No one. You go when you feel like going. Unless आपका लाइफस्टाइल हो, जैसे अब मेरा लाइफस्टाइल है, हफ्ते में 3 दिन मुझे जाना है, मैंने अपने आप को, तेरी जरूरत कैसे हुई? Yeah, exactly. You are there what I'm trying to say. So I hope your audience will see this as an opportunity to invest in themselves, invest in their physical as well as emotional health. I didn't say mental health, emotional health.
आखिर में पूछना था any advice, but I think you have given us great advice at the end of the show. I just want to continue with more questions, but I think we can call it a day because normally एक और चीज मैंने देखी, I've been recording this podcast for quite a long time now, and I've observed that lowest attention span is very less. So even if we have for 1 or 2 hours, फिर भी थोड़ा सुनना है, तो it's a good that we can wind up here. But I love the conversation. I love the insights that you shared. Absolutely amazing. And inshallah,
Thank you.
Another podcast in future too, where I'll be talking about some more topics.